Good morning, everyone. My name is Athina, and as said, I'm going to touch kind of the same topic, which is making a frame using observations and not like normal equations or like other traditional ways. This is an ongoing work that at JPL for the last very many years. There's a lot of people that have contributed. Paul Rees in the room has been very essential. And there's, as I said, a lot of other people that have contributed to be where we are today. So today I'm going to give you a status update. We really have our work published multiple times in conferences, and we also have like a paper coming out a year ago, so it can describe all the details that have been accounted for in our efforts to realize the frame. Just like for those of you who are not very familiar with the topic, like a very high level background on how we make a frame. So the traditional way, like with ITRF, is pretty much we have these four main space geodetic techniques: GPS, GNSS, VLBI, SLR, DORIS. Like analysis centers make their estimates and then they put them together, and every so often by baking them we have a frame. So that is a fairly like intense infrastructure, a lot of analysis centers, a lot of like different moving bodies involved in this process. What is very different in what we do is that we do not require anyone to do anything in terms of every analysis center does their own technique, and then we eventually have to conglomerate all these different sites and come up with a frame. Instead, we directly access the observations and combine them together. Again, for more details on how we do that, please visit the paper. Just like a quick overview, what we've done so far is we've published a frame realization for almost 10 years, from 2010 to 2022, using GPS, SLR, and VLBI. Today I'm going to update our results, and I'm going to show you how the frame looks when we add DORIS. So we have managed to make a 4-technique frame realization. One of the main like advantages that we take is that we use like the low Earth orbiters as some sort of like as a space ties. So we take advantage of the existing infrastructure, and we use that. You can view it as a pathfinder for Genesis, right? Genesis will be one satellite. We have 4 sensors for the 4 space geodetic techniques. Boom. If we don't really have that, what is there for us to use? So there are some missions that have a very good time coverage, right? Starting from 2000 from 2000s, early 2000s with GRACE. There's GRACE follow-on, GRACE is coming. So there's a lot of continuity. And the altimetry missions, and they not only have GPS and GNSS receivers, but they also have SLR reflectors. And in the case of altimetry, we also have DORIS sensors on board. So we use all those together, and we have space ties. One more advantage of this technique is that we really need only one software to integrate all these observations. That is extremely useful in terms to manage, like common background models that are used. So it's very consistent. That's a very, the observations are treated consistently. And one of the things that I believe will enable a lot of new research as we move on is the byproducts that come out of this effort. There's not only the frame, right? Because we have all these observations together, we can get the precise orbits for the missions that we use, right? So at the same time, you get orbits. You can get low-degree gravity fields. And there's a lot of new research that comes out of this. I'm going to just touch a little bit towards the end on this topic. So just jumping into the results, this is, again, the work that has been published at JGR a year ago. We use data from 2010 to June 2022. Every 3 days, we combine the data and we give a solution for every 3 days. We have a superset of like GNSS, SLR, and VLBI sites. For every given day, there's roughly 45 GPS sites, 15 to 20 SLR, and something around that about VLBI sites. Now, how does the frame look compared to other solutions? Let's kind of touch a little bit on the geocenter motion. With green color there, we have the geocenter as it is recovered from our technique. With red color, we compare it with technical Node 13 for whoever is familiar with the grace. Pretty much it's like geocenter motion retrieved using grace model, grace observations and a model. And then we also have annual geocenter motion using SLR. And when we compare them, you probably notice also like there's a gap between grace and grace follow-on. We will take care in our update version of that gap by including swarm satellites. But for now, there's a gap there. Now, going back to the results, on the X and Y axis, we see a pretty good agreement at 1 to 2 millimeters amplitude. For the X, for the Y, we also have a very good agreement. I think I've presented one more time. If you notice, after like 2014, there's kind of an offset between our solution and the TN13 and SLR. We still don't really understand where this comes from on the Y-axis, if you notice. If you have any idea, feel free to reach out to me and the coffee break. We would love to hear your opinions. And then on the Z-axis, which is arguably the hardest one to recover, it's noisier. But overall, we're pretty satisfied. It's like 3 to 4 millimeters agreement or disagreement, if you want, with the other solutions. So far on the geocenter motion, we have a pretty competitive result. Now, regarding the scale and consistency with IGS 20, everything has been published. All I'm going to just summarize is that we are almost indistinguishable from ITRF 20 in long-term stability. We have 0.1 millimeter difference, and it's even like better than the uncertainty the frame comes with. So again, we are completely agnostic to ITRF, and using a completely different way, we come up to the same solution, solution. And now moving on the what is new here. So we've done GPS, SLR, VLBI, but always there's like DORIS, the extra geodetic technique that we will deal with, and we managed to update our software, GPCX, to include and process DORIS data in combination with the other observational technique. We used one space-tie, the JSON-2 mission. There's roughly 47 DORIS ground stations, and here is like the DORIS network distribution that we've used. If you notice, like it's just a beautiful network distribution. One thing DORIS has is like a very good spatial coverage. And let's now jump into the results and see how the solution looks when we include DORIS. So kind of like I just like processed 3 months of DORIS data. Here it's like on the gray window. I hope like it shows well on the screen. And overall, these are unfiltered solutions. If you notice, like even the TRF has like a little bit of extra high frequency information compared to the other solutions that I touched before, the grays and the SLR. That has to do with, we have like a higher sampling rate, so overall, like there is a little bit of noisy information there. And the same happens with what you see there as for technique. It's unfiltered, so this is why it's like so noisy. Once we have like more data, we will like filter everything so that everything is consistent. But so far, we do not see a very big divergence. And when we actually come down to include the numbers, we have like a pretty competitive solution. Nothing is better, but nothing is also worse. So it's there and it doesn't hurt us. Now, if we move on and see how like we actually do in recovering the DORIS station positions compared to the ITRF posted positions, we have an agreement at the level of few centimeters. This is a fairly like involved plot. These are like the DORIS stations. The X and the north and the east component, like you can see on the ellipses, like they go up and down stretched, and then the color signifies the RMS on the up component. So again, it's like at the scale of few centimeters agreement with the ITRF positions. And now, as I promised a little bit earlier, kind of the low degree gravity. While we are solving for the frame, we have like GNSS and SLR at the same time, right? And what is better than recovering J2 and J3 using this data at the same time? We'll solve for the frame. On the top plot is C10, which is the TZ, also like the geocenter motion on the Z-axis. We've seen this result. And then the J2 and J3, we have, again, we compare them with other posted solutions from Grace and from SLR alone. And we see a fairly good agreement with those. Obviously, we had like our own like different flavors, so GNSS and LEO only. GPS, sorry, we have not added Galileo. GPS and SLR and POD together. And we've figured out, which is not coming with any surprise, that when we add SLR is when we actually have a good recovery of J2. GPS and POD are not doing that good job there. And then on the J3, again, we're in a pretty like competitive spot. Keep in mind also that for SLR here, we've only used LAGIS. The other solutions have like LARIS, have like Stella, have all these other SLR satellites. Because our aim was not to recover J2 and J3, we did not include them to begin with. But in our current stage, we have added LARIS data. So you see here, like that disagreement that comes after LARIS comes on J3. LARIS is a fantastic satellite to retrieve J3, and we expect like this disagreement on J3 compared to the other solutions to go away as soon as we start like getting the solutions that have added LARIS added in. And just like to show where we are at what stage we are, we've done a lot of work over the last 1 year, just like behind the scenes, not like on the actual research results, but we've managed to add a whole bunch of extra space geodetic information, and we just like streamlined and automated our process. We are ready to support Galileo. We have not done that yet, but we have all the infrastructure and to do that. For GPS, we've added all the blocks. In the previous version, we did not have like block 3 or block 2F, so now we will have every GPS block available. For SLR, we've added the two LARIS 1 and LARIS 2. We are also capable to add any other SLR satellite. One of the things we need to pay attention is like, you know, all the behind the scenes, the dynamics that we will use. So all this is a pretty tedious and involved process. So we are like, we have the ability, but we are just right now studying all these satellites on a one-to-one basis. We've added a whole bunch of new LEOs, like the Sentinels, the SWAT. The Swarm is a critical LEO that we've added, and it's going to bridge that gap between Grace and Grace follow-on. I understand, like, you know, this is a lot of extra LEOs, a lot of extra data. We have like a lot of in-house capability at JPL. There's a lot of processing teams that do POD for Grace, do the POD for altimetry. We have like our final solution. So we take advantage of all the existing in-house infrastructure, which helps us quite a lot to have like clean and ready to be used data in our solutions. We also increased the number of stations. I think Evan's presentation touched a little bit on that, like that, oh, you know, we really had 200. I think they had 200. We increased them to 120 GNSS stations from 45, so we have an even better geographical coverage. We've added like SLR, like a lot of, we've done some like automation there, so we can go back and SLR and process legacy data and new LPT2 data, any format available. And also, one final thing we've done is to update our models like the troposphere or like the static gravity field that we use. And just like to touch a little bit on that, at the end of the day, once all this process is fully automated and ready to be used, we really need to pay attention on the background models that we use. They can really improve our solution a lot. And I think that's where we are right now. So hopefully, like the next time we'll be here, I'm going to present how the frame looks using all this different data available to us. And with this, oh, this is like the new implementation is at the bottom, and what has been published at the top in terms of like ground coverage. It's way more dense coverage. And that's pretty much so where we are right now is we have like proved our case. Yes, we can. GPCX is capable to process all 4 space geodetic techniques. We have some work to do in optimizing our DORIS because we want to eventually add more space types. We currently have only one, and some work on the VLBI editing side. Now we are at the phase to do trade studies to converge on, hey, how many SLR sites do we want? Do we really not want 20? So we can explore all these options. And we've done also some work in understanding what is the best background modeling to recover the frame. And again, just like to touch that, because I truly believe that, and there's some research happening also like at JPL right now, having a frame done that way, we're using observations, will enable a whole bunch of new science coming out of it. There's a new access to data there, like I have some case there. For example, there's a big earthquake happening. Did it change the EOP? We can update our EOP like every 2 hours, and we can go and check that maybe we don't see anything, maybe we see something. There's a whole new information there. And with it, thank you very much for your attention.